On May 30th, 2005, Beth Holloway was driving home to Birmingham, Alabama, after a relaxing weekend with friends in Arkansas. Around 11 a.m., she received the kind of call no parent ever wants to answer. Her 18-year-old daughter was missing in another country. Slamming her foot on the gas, she drove at over 100 miles per hour across the state of Mississippi to catch a flight to Aruba, the picturesque Caribbean island where her child had vanished. What Beth couldn't have possibly known as she barreled down U.S. Route 78 that morning was that her journey was just beginning. The next 18 years proved to be a harrowing quest to bring her daughter justice and her family peace. This is the story of Natalee Holloway. Born to Beth and Dave Holloway in 1986, Natalee was a high achiever, described by friends as funny, smart, serious, idealistic, and exuberant. She graduated from Mountain Brook High School in 2005 with honors and a plan for the future. As the winner of an 8-year, fully funded scholarship to the University of Alabama to study medicine, Natalee was ready to take on the world. However, in May 2005, her mind was less focused on doctor dreams and more intent on an upcoming trip to Oranjestad, the capital city of Aruba, a self-governing island within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. She, along with 124 of her fellow graduates, were slated to take a 5-day trip to the idyllic Caribbean island known as a haven for tourists. Though not an expressly school-sanctioned trip, it had been a tradition for the new graduates of Mountain Brook High School to make this pilgrimage to Aruba as a final hurrah before they all went their separate ways. While this might seem like a strange practice to let a bunch of newly minted adults loose in a foreign country where the legal drinking age is 18, it isn't unheard of in wealthy areas of the United States, like the Birmingham suburb of Mountain Brook that Natalee called home. Some parents had concerns, but the trip was chaperoned by several teachers from the high school and their respective spouses. In truth, the so-called chaperoning was mostly a lax daily headcount. Otherwise, the teens generally had the run of the island. Furthermore, the students significantly outnumbered the adults by a ratio of roughly 18 to 1. During the vacation, the students were allegedly wild, taking advantage of the lower drinking age and partying hard. The teens caused such a ruckus that the Holiday Inn Resort in Oranjestad, where the group was staying, made it clear that next year's graduating class from Mountain Brook was not welcome. Natalee was said to be particularly invested in having a good time, drinking rum and cokes from the morning into the wee hours of the night, despite not having much prior experience with either alcohol or partying. She allegedly missed breakfast a couple of mornings due to long nights out, and two of her friends, Liz Kane and Claire Fireman, later noted that the drinking was excessive. On the final evening in Aruba, Natalee and her friends encountered a young man while at the Holiday Inn's casino. Joran van der Sloot, a 17-year-old Dutch national living on the island, wound up hitting it off with the American tourists, and they invited him to Carlos and Charlie's, a Mexican restaurant that doubled as a popular dancing and drinking spot, where a large group of Mountain Brook High students were planning to go that night. At first, Joran was dubious. It was a Sunday night, and he had school the next day, but with his mother out of town, he decided he could get away with a late night and went to meet the Americans at the bar. Joran arrived at Carlos and Charlie's with two of his friends in tow, the brothers Deepak and Satish Kalpo. Natalee was seen throughout the rest of the evening in Joran's company, drinking, chatting, and dancing. When the bar closed around 1 a.m., Natalee left with Joran, Deepak, and Satish. The last time her friends saw her, she was waving enthusiastically out of the window of Deepak's silver Honda Civic while it drove away. As the night turned to dawn, most of the Mountain Brook crew ambled back to the Holiday Inn for a few hours of shut-eye before their return flight home, but Natalee was not among them. One of her friends waited up in the lobby of the hotel until 3 a.m., but she eventually grew tired and went up to bed, figuring Natalie was making the most out of her final night. When the morning came and her luggage, including her cell phone and passport, remained untouched, her roommates grew concerned, but figured she had crashed in another hotel room. It wasn't until the group gathered to leave for the airport that it became apparent that Natalie was missing. The rest of the students and teachers left as scheduled, but one of the chaperones remained behind, hopeful that Natalie had just lost track of time and would soon appear. Another chaperone made the fateful call back to the United States to alert Natalie's parents to her disappearance. Beth and her husband, Natalie's stepfather, George Jug Twitty, managed to secure a private jet and landed in Aruba the same day, and so the search began. Within hours of landing, Beth and Jug were aware that Natalie was last seen in the company of Joran van der Sloot. The couple made their way to the van der Sloot residence, accompanied by 2 Aruban police officers to question the teen about Natalie's whereabouts. Initially, he denied even knowing her, but after further pushing, Joran admitted that he, along with Deepak and Satish, had taken Natalie to the California Lighthouse on Arashi Beach to look at sharks. Afterward, the trio dropped Natalie off at the Holiday Inn around 2 a.m. Upon exiting the car, Joran claimed Natalie had fallen and hit her head, but she had gotten up, insisted that she was fine, and denied his assistance. As Joran and the Kalpoe brothers drove away, he further asserted that Natalie was approached by a dark-skinned man wearing black clothes. He stated he believed the individual was some kind of security guard, though the employees of the Holiday Inn were known to wear green pants and gray shirts at the time. Joran's story was not adding up. Natalie was not visible in any security footage after leaving the bar, nor had any of the Mountain Brook students seen her after leaving Carlos and Charlie's at 1 a.m. Furthermore, although Deepak and Satish had initially backed up Joran's version of events, additional questioning created cracks in the trio's unity. Joran spun a news story stating that the brothers had dropped him and Natalie off at the beach near the Marriott Hotel, a short 10-minute walk from Natalie's accommodations. Searches for Natalie were relentless, with authorities combing the land, air, and sea to no avail. The Aruban police were extremely suspicious of both Joran and the Kalpoe brothers. Though 2 security guards from the nearby Allegro Hotel were initially detained, likely based on Joran's first account of events, the investigation largely centered around the 3 men last seen with Natalie. Ultimately, on June 9, 2005, Joran, Deepak, and Satish were arrested for the suspected kidnapping and murder of Natalie, though her body remained unfound. However, Joran changed his story yet again, attempting to implicate the Kalpoe brothers by stating that they had dropped her off after they had taken him home. This was refuted by both Deepak and Satish, and the 2 were eventually released from police custody on July 4th, though they were briefly re-arrested and re-released in August.
Ladies and gentlemen, the judge decided this afternoon that the 2 brothers who were in custody have to be released by tomorrow. He denied our request to prolong their detention for another 8 days.
With no concrete evidence other than the Aruban detectives' investigative hunches, Joran was also released 60 days later. American media descended on the small Caribbean island throughout 2005 and 2006, and the mystery of Natalie's disappearance was a hot topic of discussion, dominating the news at the time.
2 lives intersecting on an island paradise surrounded by speculation of how they met and what went on between them.
However, despite hefty financial rewards, meticulous searching, and many false leads, there was no sign of her and no further clues to her whereabouts. Following Joran's release, he gave several interviews that maintained his innocence, but told additional tales about the night Natalie was last seen. Now he stated that he had gone to the beach near the Marriott with Natalie and that she wanted to be intimate with him, but he was lacking the necessary protection.
So you never had intercourse, right?
No, never.
How come? I mean, if that was your intention and...
Well, I mean, when it actually at the point that it did get down to that, I didn't have a condom with me, and I've heard people say, "Oh, that's strange. Oh, that makes absolutely no sense. Any 18-year-old or 17-year-old then, when he doesn't have a condom, would have sex anyway." And I mean, that's the truth, though. I didn't have a condom with me.
Around 3 a.m., he called Satish and asked him to come and pick him up, leaving Natalie alone on the beach. Several other inconsequential suspects were arrested along the way, but the attention on Joran never waned, even when Dutch authorities took over the investigation at the Aruban government's request. The public speculated wildly, with theories ranging from human trafficking to drug kingpins, and Joran continued to profess his innocence, writing a book with Dutch reporter Zvezdana Vukojevic titled De Zaak Natalie Holloway, The Case of Natalie Holloway. In November 2007, both Joran and the Kalpoe brothers were arrested yet again on suspicion of manslaughter and causing bodily harm to Natalie. But by December of the same year, all three men were free once more, again due to a lack of evidence. On December 18th, the case was closed for the same reason. In 2008, a Dutch television program gained footage of Joran telling businessman and former criminal Patrick van der Em that Natalie had died of a seizure in front of Joran. He had then called a friend who had a boat to come to help him dump her body in the ocean.
Ja, toen we naar het strand waren, toen ik heb in één keer deze gewoon niks meer. Dus ja, ik hoor hem wel, hoor. Dus die gast, ja, hij is daar gekomen.
Lekker even. Ja, met de boot weggebracht naar buiten. Ja, verder dan 2 mijl. Ik ben nooit meer terug, hoor.
This story turned out to go nowhere because the friend who had supposedly helped Joran dispose of her body was attending school in Rotterdam at the time of Natalie's disappearance. That same year, Joran was interviewed by American newscaster Greta Van Susteren for her show on Fox News. In this conversation, he admitted to selling Natalie to human traffickers for $10,000.
And so then you drove to the Marriott, at least a little bit north of the Marriott, or that parking lot area?
The parking lot area.
And tell me what happened.
Then I got out, stepped out of the car, she was with me, went to the beach with her, and we were just making out, we never did anything else. And then at first I didn't see anyone there, I didn't know anything, and I was like, okay, whatever, you know, it's not gonna happen. Then I saw a guy, and he came, and he just handed me a bag, grabbed the girl by the arm, and he went to the boat that he had in the water.
However, just 8 hours after his interview with Greta was completed, Joran emailed the team at Fox News saying that it was a lie. 2 years later, in 2010, Joran reached out to Beth Holloway's lawyer and offered to tell the family the location of her body in exchange for $250,000, with 10% of that being paid up front. The lawyer informed the FBI, who instructed the Holloway family to go through with the exchange. After Joran received $25,000, he informed them that Natalie's body was in a particular house. However, this turned out to be false information since the house he directed them to did not exist in 2005. American authorities in turn charged Joran with wire fraud and extortion, and a warrant for his arrest was sent to Interpol. Exactly 5 years after Natalie's disappearance in Aruba, a 21-year-old Peruvian student, Stephanie Flores Ramirez, was reported missing in Lima. 3 days later, her body was recovered in a hotel room purchased by none other than Joran van der Sloot. By June 3, 2010, Joran was located in Chile and extradited to Peru, where he confessed to killing Stephanie in a fit of rage.
Wednesday, Dutch citizen Joran van der Sloot pleaded guilty in a Peruvian court to killing 21-year-old Stephanie Flores.
I am truly regretful for what I have done. I feel very bad.
Charged with first-degree murder and robbery, Joran pled guilty in 2012 and was sentenced to 28 years behind bars. On June 8, 2023, Joran was finally extradited to the United States to face the wire fraud and extortion charges from 2010. As part of a plea deal, Joran finally agreed to tell the Holloways what had happened to their daughter on that fateful night nearly 2 decades prior. Joran claims he tried to initiate intimacy with Natalie on the beach. When she refused his advances and even kneed him in self-defense, he flew into a rage. Standing up, he viciously kicked her in the head while she was still down.
Do Deepak and Satish get out, come with what happens to them?
Deepak and Satish leave. They leave. They go back to their home. I assume they go back to their home. They get in their car and they leave. I'm actually with Natalie walking along the beach. I find a space before we get to the Marriott hotel, where I lay her down. We lay down together in the sand, and we start kissing each other. I get her to kiss me again. We start kissing each other, and I start feeling her up again. And she tells me no. She tells me she doesn't want me to feel her up. I insist. I keep feeling her up either way, and she knees me. She ends up kneeing me in the crotch. When she knees me in the crotch, I get up on the beach and I kick her extremely hard in the face.
According to his confession, if true, she fell silent, leading him to believe she was unconscious or dead. He then grabbed a nearby cinder block and struck her head with it. Finally, Joran claims he dragged Natalie's body into the ocean, shoving it into the waves when the water reached his knees.
Afterwards, I don't exactly know what, I'm scared. I don't know what to do, and I decide to take her and to put her into the ocean. So I grab her and I half pull and half walk with her into the ocean. I push her off. I walk up to about my knees into the ocean, and I push her off into the sea. After that, I get out. I walk home.
For the extortion charges, Joran was sentenced to 20 years in October 2023, which he will likely serve inside the walls of his current home, the dangerous Chalapalca prison in rural Peru. Whether or not he will face charges in Aruba for the 2005 murder is unknown. The statute of limitations for murder on the island is typically 12 years, but due to the high-profile nature of the Natalee Holloway case, it remains to be seen if this will apply to Joran or not. The Natalee Holloway case is well remembered, especially in Aruba and the United States. The controversy and media circus swirling around the entire affair led to criticisms from all sides and a flood of theories regarding Natalee's demise. If Natalee had lived, she would now be 37 years old. Perhaps she would be a doctor with a family of her own. What started as a night of carefree fun for a bunch of newly graduated teens turned into a horrifying ordeal that had a massive ripple effect, from the lives of Natalee's family to the economy of the island of Aruba, a nation that relies on tourism dollars to survive. Though it is easy to point fingers and argue that Natalee should never have left with Joran and the Kalpoe brothers, or that the trip shouldn't have happened in the first place, let's not forget to place all the blame where it truly belongs, on the shoulders of Joran van der Sloot. It is his selfish and angry actions that stole the life of Natalee. To this day, her body has never been found.
Today, I can tell you with certainty that after 18 years, Natalee's case is solved. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. It's over.
Tell us what you think in the comments below. Do you remember when the Natalee Holloway case was all over the news? Should Joran face new charges in Aruba? Be sure to subscribe and press the notification bell so we'll see you for our next case. As always, thanks for watching.